All right, everybody. How are we doing today? I hope everyone had a great Christmas, a good holiday. Welcome back to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show, the final episode of 2023. I'm Robbie Basel, your usual host, and today just want to give a few quick announcements in the beginning of the episode before we dive right into the content. So, January. There's going to be a lot of soccer content in January. And the reason that there's going to be, I know I'm trying to make the Premier League video with Dylan. Just got to get some scheduling things done. So that video will be coming out from the mid-season recap in January, hopefully in the beginning of January. I'm also going to be making my AFCON and my predictions for the Asian Cup. That's another video. That's probably going to be the Monday videos. And then later in the week, we do like the usual stuff. There's a couple other ideas I might do, just not 100% sure on that just yet, so you guys will have to wait and see if I come up with anything else. And yeah, that's the couple of announcements. It feels weird, of course, being in the office once again for another episode. A couple more weeks in here, and then we're back in the scene at Iona University. Right now, I'm planning on sticking with the Monday, Friday at Iona. Just not 100% sure yet. Things could change. Not, like I said, not sure yet. So, on that note, let's dive right into the content. And we're starting off today with some breaking news. Yes, guys, we have breaking news. For the time this is being recorded, also, quick apology. Sorry we didn't get a video out yesterday. Very busy with a bunch of other things in house. Don't worry about it. Today's video is going to come out on Saturday. Next Friday, we're going to do a video. No video on New Year's. Then we'll go back to the Monday, Friday schedule. But back to the breaking news. In the NBA, we don't talk about the NBA very much here, but I feel like this needs to be talked about. And it's a trade. Yes, guys, a trade has happened between the Toronto Raptors and the New York Knicks. Let's break it down. So the big names going in this trade are OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa, along with, I believe, Malachi Flynn in a late development to the New York Knicks for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Raptors are acquiring a second-round pick via the Pistons, which will be likely the top pick in the second round. So let's look at both sides of this trade. The Raptors win this deal off the jump. You're getting a guy like an Emmanuel Quickley that, one, we don't know if he's going to re-sign with the Toronto Raptors. I mean, they could be good now. Maybe. I don't know. It's a big I don't know from Toronto because you're adding a guy in an RJ Barrett. You're adding a stud in Emmanuel Quickley. The short-term benefit for this season is that they can help you get into a playoff game, a playing game, a playoff contention type of situation. They're really adding some star power into this lineup. I think the biggest piece in the short term will be Emmanuel Quickley because of how much talent he has and how much he can impact the game. RJ Barrett's also very solid, just a little bit more, I think, on the inconsistent side. So if they can lock up Emmanuel Quickley, they're winning this deal off the jump. I don't think they do it. It's one of those that's really up in the air because the news just broke and no one knows what to think about it. But I think the Toronto Raptors get two very solid players along with a high second round pick. But I think this trade will really elevate the Raptors more. They needed more star power. Yes, it cost them an OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa, but they got better players than I think than Precious Achiuwa and OG Anunoby. On top of that, the Raptors didn't know if OG was even going to stay because of the player option, and Precious I believe, has like 1 year left, and I think he's an RFA next year. So really, I think the Raptors are the only team in this trade they get at least one long-term player, and that's RJ Barrett because of the long extension. It's also cool for RJ Barrett because he's Canadian, and I feel like that's going to be partially why they really wanted RJ Barrett. Reunite him in Canada, reignite the fan base of the Toronto Raptors. I think this is a solid trade for Toronto. From the Knicks side, it's kind of confusing. Did they really need to make this trade? And it's at what cost? It's the cost that's really haunting me in this because I think OG Anunoby is a very solid player. Precious Achiuwa, I think, is a good role player off the bench. But the value Emmanuel Quickley had, I think, was more impactful than those two. And I'm saying that. Now, granted, was Emmanuel quickly going to sign with the Knicks? I don't think so, because we don't know if the Knicks had the money to do it. In saying that, I don't know what the future will look like for both of those players on the Knicks. Because are you going to rotate OG and Josh Hart? Is OG now your starting small forward? It's a lot of unknowns for me from the New York Knicks perspective. On top of that, they gave up a second-round pick. I don't think they needed to do that, but they did. It's a head scratcher from New York's side. Toronto's going to win this trade off the jump. The real question will be how much. I think the bigger questions are going to lie with the Knicks, because I mean, of course, we're going to question how much impact both of these players are going to have on their certain teams. But the skill set to me that Emmanuel quickly brings, RJ Barrett, I think, is also going to bring some possible versatility. And I think he can be more of a reliable scorer with the Toronto Raptors, going to really give him some more. I think it just really is going to invigorate. That's not even the right word, isn't it? I don't know. It's really going to ignite the Toronto Raptors more. Bringing a Canadian, a valuable Canadian, into a Canadian-based team. I think the Raptors are going to win this trade in the long run, because they get, of course, the one long-term player in this trade. I just don't know about why the Knicks would need to do this. That's the one question I have. Was it necessary? I mean, it could be. Could OG Anunoby be a stud for the Knicks? Possibly. I just don't know if this trade was really necessary. And that's the big thing for me. Was this trade needed? How is this going to elevate the Knicks? This elevates Toronto. You get two studs. Knicks, I don't know, especially without having no confirmed long-term piece out of this. So that's my thoughts on this. Precious Achiuwa, though, I think can be a stud, but let's be honest, we don't know. And now on to the other piece of breaking news in the soccering world, and that came from, I believe, Monday or Tuesday, and we're actually not even talking about a club here. We're talking about a national team. We are going to Brazil, and we are possibly learning that in about, I believe, a little over a week's time, we could know if Brazil is suspended, or, I mean, the way they word it is expelled from FIFA and CONMEBOL. That is what is at stake on a conference and a possible vote next week. Let me break down the situation from you. So in FIFA's guidelines, you cannot have your own country's government impact the decision inside of their football and the governing body of football, which makes sense. However, on December 7th, a court in Rio de Janeiro dismissed the president of the Brazil Football Confederation, which is illegal under FIFA's guidelines, because a government, another way to put it is a third party, got involved with the Footballing Confederation, which is of course against FIFA, and now Brazil can be paying the price for it. How does this impact Brazil? If they're suspended, I mean, could possibly one of the most prestigious national teams be suspended from CONMEBOL? Could be suspended, so that we wouldn't see them in the Copa America, we wouldn't see them in the World Cup. This could be very catastrophic for the football in the full scale of the footballing world. This could be the most impactful decision, and it's in January of the entire year. Could be in the second week of January. That's insane. I did not think that was going to happen, and I don't think anyone else did either. But according to a unanimous source, let's see what happens. FIFA nor CONMEBOL allow external interference in matters concerning their associate members, which is the national teams. So the problem is, we don't know what's actually going to happen if there's going to be a vote. We know there's a conference, and we know it's on January 8th. The problem is, we don't know what type of punishment and how long it would be for Brazil. Because what was going to happen with the Brazilian national team? Let's talk about what they could possibly be hosting. They host the Women's World Cup in 2027, and on top of that, they were rumored to hire Carlo Ancelotti, and recently Carlo Ancelotti signed a new contract till June 2026, which is an interesting development, because I don't know if that was actually going to happen. if the Brazil situation wasn't going to be this interesting. Let alone, no one really knows about this yet. Now it's starting to come around more. But the situation at hand is that a top 5 national team in the world could be suspended indefinitely by FIFA and CONMEBOL, the governing body of South American football, could suspend the clubs from international competition. So the what's it, the Libertadores, the Sudamerica, is that what it's called? I forgot the start. Hold on. Is it the Copa Libertadores? I should know this. It's the Copa Libertadores, which is like the Champions League of South America. Then the Sudamerica, that's the Sudamerica. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. They could be suspended from that as well. World Cup qualifying. This could change the entirety of the CONMEBOL landscape and open a door for a World Cup spot if Brazil is suspended from qualifying and not allowed to qualify for the next World Cup. And this could see players retire. We could eventually see the national team retirement of Neymar. This is very interesting. Alisson, Ederson, I know they're getting up there in age a little bit. I believe at least. Hold on. I know this is like frustrating, but I just want to make sure he's like kind of old. He's 31. Alisson's going to be 34 at the time of the World Cup. 33, 34. This is very impactful for the Brazilian Football Federation. It could really change the scape of the footballing world. That's what's going on. We will be following this development as it happens on this show. We'll talk about it more next week if anything new happens. But right now, all we know is that Brazil could be very screwed, and it could change the entirety of the footballing landscape. So that's what's going on with the breaking news. Now let's go to your regularly scheduled content with the updates from the Premier League and not the Champions League. The Champions League doesn't happen until February. That's how you should. This is what I'm going to say right now. The Champions League is February 13th and 14th. So I already know what I'm doing then. But yeah, no Valentine's Day stuff for me. Sorry, chat. I know people make fun of me for that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Premier League. So how we're going to do this today, because we're already 13 minutes-ish into the video, I'm going to how many games I might have to talk about. We're going to talk to you about the 2 or 3 best games from that day due to how many games we have. So let's begin. Starting us off, we'll talk about the most influential results of each day. We're going to begin with West Ham United 2, Manchester United 0. Bowen and Kudus scoring. West Ham looked like the better team throughout this match. I watched this game. Yes, it was early in the morning. I watched like pretty much a full highlight reel, full recap of it. West Ham looked like the better team. Manchester United did not look very good. Even though West Ham only had 34% possession, they went out and scored 2 goals when they needed to, courtesy of Mohamed Kudus and Jared Bowen, speaking of Jared Bowen, he's looked great recently. Rocked an 8.1 rating in this match. Kudus, the Ghanaian, the 23-year-old Ghanaian, who was man of the match, he had a goal. He did get subbed off later on. But David Moyes' squad, that was their first of 2 major wins this week. We'll talk about the other one in a little bit. But West Ham getting off to a very good start. And then we had this one. Luton Town 1, Newcastle 0. Luton finally decided, you know what? We're playing a very big match. It's at Kenilworth Road, our home field. Let's go beat someone at Kenilworth. And for the hell of it, Andros Townsend scored the only goal in the match, which is a solid goal. Luton won, and I think this was the first statement of the weekend. Because, by the way, I was able to do my commentary for this one. Aston Villa drew Sheffield United, which started the theme of the small teams doing stuff, because I'm not going to be able to talk about this one. But Burnley went out and beat Fulham. And then we had this one. Luton Town with 35% possession, 0.01 XG less than Newcastle, won. Which is amazing. So Luton Town, they're invigorated. They're in a great spot. Because granted, in the table at the time, I believe, they're stuck in 18th. But all of the relegation teams were starting to climb back more towards safety. because teams like Everton, they went out and lost. Nottingham Forest under Nuno Santos got a red card and lost to Bournemouth, courtesy of Dominic Solanke playing out of his mind. I mean, everything was going down. And then we had this game. Liverpool won, Arsenal won. Now, I'm going to be dead honest with you here. Liverpool should have won this game, and it should not have been close. And let me explain to you why. Arsenal score early, courtesy of a set-piece goal from Gabriel, the center back, which got Arsenal up 1-0. Liverpool, for the next, I would say, 75 minutes, pretty much controlled the rest of the match. Arsenal really didn't get I don't remember them getting a massive chance afterwards. The first 10 to 15 minutes went to Arsenal. The rest of the match went to Liverpool. And it should not have been close. I know I'm repping the Arsenal shirt today because I felt like it was kind of necessary. But they did not look very good. And the shots were even. Liverpool had 10 plus shots in the second half. I think Arsenal had like 6. So that's how Liverpool was better in the second half. They get their equalizer courtesy of Mo Salah on a near post shot on David Raya. Liverpool looked better. They had a chance to win with Trent Alexander-Arnold on a 4-on-1, but he didn't score it off the crossbar. It should have been 2-1, I think, to Liverpool. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one. Liverpool, unlucky. They went out and only got 1 point, but they're going to be leading the Premier League after this week. Eventually, in the early part, currently where we are now, Liverpool's leading the league, and we'll talk about why in a minute. Sunday, we had, of course, the Albanian. Okay, we're not talking about the Albanian second division because that's what's on my foot mob right now. You have Wolves beat Chelsea 2-1. Mario Lemina scored a goal, and then we had some injuries, and then Matt Doherty scored the second. Then Christopher Nkunku scored for Chelsea. It's not enough. Wolves with a 2-1 win over Chelsea to get them back almost into the top 10 in the league. And we'll talk about how they're getting closer and closer in a couple of minutes. But what we're really seeing right now, Gary O'Neil is actually a competent manager, I think. He's really invigorated brought more energy into this side. And that's what you needed to see from a team like Wolves. They have a lot of potential, but losing a player back in the summer, we talked about this with Dylan. Losing a player like Ruben Neves, losing some of these other players, not having a true goal scorer, they're getting their goal scoring out of a variety of players. You talk about your He Chan Huangs, your Mateus Cunhas, Pablo Sarabia in the front, in front. Oh, and of course Mario Lemina, the Gabonian player. Nelson Semedo, I think has been very impactful for this team. If you look at the bench, they got some decent players as well. This team is not as bad as people think they are. They're usually in their 14th, 15th range, getting promoted I say about half a century ago now. Not half a decade, excuse me. But this Wolves side's not bad, and they proved their quality going there and beating Chelsea 2-1. And then we have our Boxing Day fixtures. We'll talk about 3 of the games here. First of all, shout out to referee, what's his name again? I just want to make sure I get this right. Sam Allison for reffing Luton and Sheffield, the first black African American black official. He's not American. To do ref a game in the Premier League. Shout out to him. He reffed a phenomenal match. Watch some of the stuff back. He did fantastic. Give this dude more games, damn it. All right, that's enough. Because I want like a solid officiating game like him more. We saw him the first female official. Now we're seeing it out of a guy like Sam Allison. Give these people more games. Luton played a phenomenal match and they beat Sheffield. That's not what we're talking about, though. Because we opened it up with Nottingham Forest beating... What is going on with Newcastle? I am so confused. Chris Wood, the Kiwi, the player from New Zealand, chat, New Zealand, puts up a hat trick on Newcastle. And they win 3-1. 2 assists for Anthony Elanga. He played a great match as well. But an opening goal, a penalty from Alexander Isak opened the scoring. And then Chris Wood goes on a run we haven't seen from him in forever. And Newcastle fall to Nottingham Forest, the first win under Nuno Santo. That's how you say it? How do you say the manager's name again? This is why Nuno Espirito Santo. Good win for Forest. Good for them. Yeah, like I said, Luton beat Sheffield. Bournemouth beat Fulham, but no one cares. Liverpool beat Burnley, and they didn't look good. I don't think they did. Yeah, they had 1.82 XG and 19 shots only to Burnley. They had 30 against Manchester United. Are you telling me Burnley's defense is better than them? But Man United would say not so fast. Manchester United 3, Aston Villa 2. For Aston Villa, that is only their 4th loss of the season. A result that puts Aston Villa, with one more game played, tied for the league with Liverpool, which is insanity. But at the same time, it makes sense how good Aston Villa has been. How so? We'll talk about why Aston Villa is in second in a minute because they played a result today. But Manchester United has getting great results, I think, out of one man. That is Alejandro Garnacho. The 19-year-old Argentinian has played out of his mind this season. He's really their best player. But we also saw a very emotional moment for me, and that is Rasmus Højlund scoring a goal. Yes, guys, Rasmus Højlund finally scored. The guy who I said was going to be my transfer of the year scored a goal. Finally. Is he going to make a turnaround? I have no idea. Imagine he goes for the greatest second half of all time. That would be hilarious. But Garnacho's brace lifts, along with Højlund, lifts Manchester United, who went down 2-0 inside 26 minutes. The 3 second half goals, United 3, Aston Villa 2. Very big result for Manchester United. And then we had some games on Wednesday. We had Wolves go out there and beating Brentford. Wolves continuing their reign of dominance. They won 3 games this week, and we'll talk about the third one very briefly in a moment. Chelsea went out and beat Crystal Palace. Madueke got a late penalty. Mudryk scored. Then it was Michael Olise who had the best rating in the match. And Madueke scored to make it 2-1. Then we had City coming back from their Club World Cup win. Beat Everton 3-1 after going down 1-0 in the 29th minute, courtesy of Jack Harrison. But goals from Phil Foden, Julian Alvarez, and Bernardo Silva lift the Citizens up for a 3-1 win. And then we had this game, Arsenal 0, West Ham 2. West Ham is legit, ladies and gentlemen. Tomas Suchek scored. The Mavropanos. Let me try this, all right. Konstantinos Mavropanos. I got it. Scored a goal on a set piece. He had a header to make it 2-0. Saeed Benrahma missed a penalty, but Declan Rice conceded a pen, which is kind of funny because it was against West Ham, his old club. Arsenal drops points twice to West Ham. Not good. But I don't know. Arsenal deserved to lose again. Despite them having 2.77 XG and 30 shots, no one could put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, there was a VAR controversy, but Arsenal should not have to rely on VAR playing West Ham. Granted, West Ham, due to their efforts, are now in 6th, which is crazy. And then we had Brighton go out and beat Tottenham. Good for Brighton. They went up 4-0, and then 2 goals late on from Tottenham, made it 4-2. But Brighton were the better team all the way through. They did have 2 penalties. 3.58 XG against Tottenham is pretty respectable. Brighton's defenses look really shaky this year. 2.35 XG for Tottenham. They scored 2 goals, so it's kind of respectable as well. But Brighton get a much-needed win, and that puts the Seagulls up into 8th place. Very respectable 8th place. And then we had matches from today. Starting us off, we had Chelsea go up 3-0, courtesy of a brace from Cole Palmer and Madueke scoring again. But then Luton Town, at home again, make it close. This makes no sense. I just cannot fathom how good this team is. I cannot do it. Ross Barkley and Adebayo score late on, but it's not enough. The Blues go out there and get a massive 3 points, to save them from being in the bottom half of the league. They went out and got a good win. And then we had Aston Villa 3, Burnley 2, a back and forth barn burner. I love this game. I was only not able to watch it because I'm on Peacock. Leon Bailey scored a phenomenal opening goal. The M. Dewoni responded right away. Then Moussa Diaby scored. And then Foster. Correction. Then Burnley got a red card. I'm trying to read this in order of events. And Sander Berge got a red card. Then Lyle Foster equalizes for Burnley. Aston Villa scored late on. Douglas Luiz penalty wins it for Aston Villa. They go out and win 3-2, and that's why they're in second with a match ahead. One more match played. They're 20 matches in now. One more play than everyone else. Crystal Palace beat Brentford 3-1. Manchester City beat Sheffield and didn't look very good. You would think with Manchester City's quality, they win like 7-0. They won 2-0. Rodri scored, and then Julian Alvarez scored late on. If we take a look at the statistics, yeah, Manchester City had 82% possession, but when you look at how Sheffield plays the big teams, they don't possess the ball, and they thrive on the counterattack. Granted, Sheffield had 0.33 XG and 4 total shots. They did not look very good. And then we had the game I was able to watch today. We had Wolves 3, Everton 0. Wolves looked great. They looked really good. And it's because they're really thriving under Gary O'Neill. They get 3 goals. You saw Craig Dawson scored. I believe Matthias Cunha may have had a goal as well. But as my apps are now lagging, a good win for Wolves. They're just out. I believe they might be tied now with Chelsea. Let me check. And everything's slow now. Beautiful. Wolves are tied with Chelsea, and they're 4 points off 7th. So they're 4 points off of a European spot. Wolves? I didn't expect that one. What we also know now is, for those who remember from the opening video with Dylan, you remember that one of us has to do a commentary on our worst pick. We have a tie for that right now. I think Dylan's going to be ecstatic with West Ham and Tottenham. Because I predicted, I think West Ham like 13th, they're in 6th. Dylan massacred on Tottenham to finish in 12th, and they're in 5th. So, drama galore in our predictions. We'll talk about it more when Dylan comes on the show hopefully soon. And right now, current results, as of now, United and Nottingham Forest are playing, and it's 0-0. On to the final topic of today's show. We have the NFL. Starting us off, we have the Thursday night football game. Let's break down this one. We have the Jets and the Browns. This game was terrible. Joe Flacco is that dude. Trevor Siemian, the less said, the better. The Jets did not look very good. You had a variety of attempts to try and be good. Garrett Wilson, Conklin, Breece Hall had a touchdown. Good for him. But it's not enough when you're playing against the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, led by Joe Flacco, are in the playoffs. Hold on one second while I set this up. That deserves a round of applause from me, because what the Browns have done is very admirable. Granted, the Browns are not winning the division. They have to play their last game against the Cincinnati Bengals, a Cincinnati Bengals team that still has minor hope of making the playoffs, but they have to win out. The playoff situation right now is absolutely nuts. I freaking love it. And we'll talk about it more in a moment. What we do know is if the Patriots lose this week, they're playing against the Buffalo Bills, the Jets will finish ahead of the New England Patriots. God, I love this narrative. Listen, the Jets may have played terrible. We may have 10 losses again, but we are ahead of the Patriots. I'm just speaking out my Jets fan perspective. I've got off character a little bit here. The Jets, fire the cannons. They're better than the Patriots. All right. You're better than a Patriots team that wants to be bad. Cool. All right, now back to your regularly scheduled content. Let's talk about some of these games. Tonight we have Lions and Cowboys. I'm a fan of this matchup. One team trying to not prove themselves to be even more of a fraud than we thought, and the Detroit Lions, who won the NFC North, a team that I didn't predict to win the NFC North, going out there, winning their division. Well done. A loss and an Eagles win would seal the deal. Did I predict Detroit to make the playoffs? I did. I didn't have them winning the division, though. Thanks, Minnesota. But due to Kirk Cousins destroying himself, what I realized is a lot of my predictions I think may have been more accurate if people stayed healthy. And I hate to say that because it's shockingly true. But listen, the Minnesota Vikings with Kirk Cousins would have, I think, been more of a competitor for the division. They would have been more of a playoff team, but they're not because the NFC is the disaster, honestly. But I think the Lions are going to upset the Dallas Cowboys tonight. Give me a 7-point win for the Lions. They're the better team on paper, and I think they're going to go out and show some quality. Even though it's a possible meaningless game for Detroit, I don't think it's that meaningless because the Detroit Lions are tied with the best record in the NFC. If they go out and win some games, they're going to really pose a threat and possibly go out there and get the number 1 seed in the NFC. Just saying, it's very possible. What's some games to watch out for in the early session on Sunday? Starting us off, you already know I'm talking about this game. We have Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. They take on the Miami Dolphins. This game is for a lot. This game will be, I believe, for the number 1 seed. It is for the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Ravens can steal the number 1 seed this week, and they can clinch a division this week because they would get the seed ahead of the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have one more game played. They're 11-5. The Ravens are 12-3. Or Ravens would have put them up to 13-3. And the math adds up. The Ravens are going to be the number 1 seed. The Dolphins, with them losing, could really open the door for them to drop down a little bit. The Chiefs at 9-6. They could go up to 10-6 with a win this week and put some possible pressure on the Dolphins. But the Buffalo Bills, I think, it's still possibly poise a threat. I don't think the Bills can win the division still. I don't think so. Let me double check this real quick. The Bills can win the division still. No, actually, no, I'm looking at the wrong year. See, this is what I hate about this iPad, because sometimes that happens. The Bills, yeah, they still beat the Dolphins. So if the Bills win out and the Dolphins lose out, which starts today on Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens, I think the Ravens win this game. I think the Baltimore Ravens, they're going to show some dominance. They're going to go out there and win the number 1 seed with a chip on their shoulder. A team that I did not predict to make the playoffs is going to be the number 1 seed, I think, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's very predictable. The Ravens at home, they've looked very good at home this season. I'm expecting a big day from Lamar Jackson. But if you want me, I don't even know a player to watch out for in the Baltimore Ravens. I think there's going to be a lot of possibilities for some not as big known players to go out there and shine a little bit. But in a second fraud bowl in a week, Dolphins may fall back down the relevancy and will likely go out there and try and secure a number 2 seed against Buffalo in a week. Other games to watch out for. Speaking of the Bills, they're playing the Patriots. They have to win this game. If they lose, no words for the Buffalo Bills. But what other games are there actually out there to watch for? I believe we will be seeing the return of C.J. Stroud against the Tennessee Titans. I want to see how he looks. Because the Tennessee Titans, one, we don't know who's starting for them. And two, the Texans have looked shaky, but that's without Stroud. Because the Jets injured C.J. Stroud a couple weeks ago. Now we're in a situation where the Texans might be kind of screwed. But with 2 more wins, the Texans have a strong chance to win the AFC South. Because the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are playing the Panthers, I talked about this with some of my friends yesterday. This is not a pushover, especially without Trevor Lawrence. I think the Panthers have a good shot of winning this game. Do they win it? I don't think so. But this game is not going to be a blowout. I don't see this as a blowout whatsoever. But I think the Panthers' offense is going to get eaten alive. I don't think the Jags do anything either. I think this game is going to be very similar to Panthers-Falcons when the Panthers beat the Falcons 9-7. I think it's going to be very similar. Turnovers galore, and I think the Panthers win. I'll say this by this score, 9-7. There you go. But I think that would be the only way they would win this game. So the Texans have a lot to play for. They have to win out. I hope the Jags lose a game. Because the Texans finished the season, I believe, against the Indianapolis Colts. Let me just double check that for you guys. They do. The Texans are away to the Colts, and the Jags are away to the Titans. So all to play for in the AFC South. I'm very excited to see how that looks. We have the Bucks and the Saints, man. Listen, the Bucks can clinch the NFC. I believe can clinch the NFC South with a win here. The Bucks have been playing out of their mind. They won 4 in a row. A loss and a Falcons win could put this division at a little bit of a standstill. However, the Bucks finished the season against the Panthers. I think this is the Bucks division to lose now. For the Panthers, you already know they're playing an interesting one this week. They're taking on the New Orleans Saints at home. I think they get it done this week. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be your NFC South division winners. I tried it with the Falcons. They just don't know how to run an offense. Yeah, that was my most interesting prediction of the year by far. And now let's just talk more about the AFC playoff picture because this thing is nuts. The Raiders, okay, can really cause some problems. And I think they're going to cause some problems and ruin the chances of Indianapolis. They play Indianapolis away. I'm going with the Raiders again. I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, they went to KC last week. They played phenomenal on defense. Now I think this is when the offense needs to step up. And this is when you're going to see old school Aiden O'Connell. I think he's going to have a much better game. They're really going to use him more in the passing game. The run game, who knows who's starting for running back for them because Josh Jacobs cost me in fantasy last week. But I'm going to say the Raiders win. I think it's really going to come down to can the Raiders stop the run? I think they're going to be able to do that. Give me the Raiders in this one. And I'll go with the Rams and the Giants, I guess. I think the Giants are starting Tyrod. I'm going to give the Rams a win. Likely put the Rams in the playoffs. The team that I did not have in the playoffs is going out there and making it as well. Then we have the later session tomorrow. There's not really a game that catches my eye that much. But we're going to go with a game that I don't think many people are going to be talking about. And that is a win and you're in, possibly. I mean, the NFC and AFC playoff pictures are very interesting. Lose and you're done. That's what's at stake for both of these teams. We have the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Seattle Seahawks 8-7, third in the NFC West. However, a win and a couple of teams losing could put Seattle in a wild card spot. For the Steelers, they're on survival mode because if they go out there and lose, they're probably done. That's what's at stake for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's also crazy, just bringing this up now, it's very possible that 3 AFC South teams make the playoffs, and everyone said the division was trash, which to be fair, it's pretty bad. But 8-7 right now for some of these teams is very respectable. Get back to what we're talking about here. I'm going to say, where's this game? That's what you need to know. This game's at Lumen Field. I'm excited, man. This game's going to go back and forth. Give me the Seattle Seahawks. I trust them more at home. Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be licking their chops because they couldn't beat a bad team down the stretch. They really had one. So give me the Seahawks in that one. Chiefs Bengals. I think it's going to be a snooze fest. Low scoring affair. I think from this one. Say the Chiefs win by 1 score. Broncos Chargers. Broncos trying to stay alive, and I think they lose. This is when this is going to cost them needing Russell Wilson in these tight situations and meaningful games. Why don't you have your veterans starting? No idea. Jarrett Stidham's going to sell. I think the Chargers go out there and beat the Broncos. Then Sunday Night Football, man. I like this game a lot. Packers and the Vikings. It's going to be an interesting one. I think this is a big day for Justin Jefferson. Not having Jair Alexander after you almost costed the team last week. It's going to be very hurtful. I'm going to say the Minnesota Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers, costing the Packers a chance at the playoffs. And keeping the Vikings' playoff hopes alive with the 1 week to go. So that's all the sports stuff. But I just have one more message for you guys. Thank you guys so much for following me on this journey. This show's gone on for 8 months now, over 60 episodes. It's been a pleasure for me to just talk about sports, give you guys break down what's going on, not just in the United States, some of the main sports leagues here in the USA, but all around the world with the Premier League, all the other soccering news going on around the world. It's been a pleasure for me, and I hope I get to continue doing this for you guys. Robbie Basel Show 2024. It starts next week. I cannot wait to bring on hopefully some more guests throughout next season. I know I only brought on one guest this year, but next year that's going to change. Let me know in the comments, a DM. I don't care. Just message me who you want to see on this show. I'll do my best to try and get them on, because I know you guys want more variety, and I try to do that with some of my topics. I really do. But with more people around, I think it'll be more fun. I think that's the smart idea to do, is try to bring on more people. This show's staying with me as your host. But will there be more guests on? Guess we'll have to turn the pages on some calendars, and we'll see next year. But for now, once again, thank you so much for joining me on this ride. That'll be the end of the Robbie Basel Show here in 2023. I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in 2024.